What's up, guys? Hold on, I'm trying to get everything ready. It says disconnected. All right, let's see. All right, it was live on YouTube. All right, I think I'm live on Facebook now. That was weird. What's up, guys? Happy Thursday. Everything should be good to go here. So hopefully I see some of you guys hop on. Let me hop on my phone and make sure it's working. Nice, cool. Well, welcome to Q&A Thursdays. So this is actually something I saw one of my friends do in one of her groups, and I thought this is a brilliant idea. So we'll try it out, see how it goes. But yeah, it's pretty much open to whatever questions you guys want to ask, whether it's about running, whether it's about motivation, life, you name it. Let's talk about it. Sarah's here. Hey, Sarah. Tonight is all about your questions, so stay tuned because we're going to talk about it. But we'll wait for a few other people to hop on. But how's your guys' day been? Hopefully you guys ran today. It was a little chilly this morning in Florida, but it was all right. We'll survive. There's no snow, so that's all that matters. All right. Well, I'm going to just go ahead and get started. So Sarah, one of the newest members of our group, posted a question today, which was great. I love this question, and I think it is a great thing to talk about. So here's what she said. She said, given my age, my maximum heart rate is 152. Yesterday, my average was 155. Is that okay? Also, it seems to me I heard that the faster your heart rate goes back down, the better shape I am. Is this true? I'm medically in great health. Any thoughts about monitoring the heart rate? So, Sarah, you are right on the money. So, a little bit of background. So the old way to kind of figuring out our max heart rate was this little formula that was created in like the 50s and 60s. And it's basically the number 220 minus your age. And in theory, that should be your max heart rate. The only problem is it's really only accurate. Hey, Jess, welcome. It's really only accurate when you're it's really only accurate when you're around 40 years old. When you're a little bit older than 40, it's not super accurate. In fact, it kind of underestimates your maximum heart rate. And if you're super young, it kind of overestimates your maximum heart rate. So let's think about that for example. So in Sarah's case, Sarah's 68, and she is in great shape. And if you do the 220 minus her age, then you get 152. Well, in my opinion, that's a little low. And in her case, her average was above that. So in theory, Sarah, her heart should have exploded, and that would be so sad. JJ, when are you going to come see the track? Soon. I drove by a couple weeks ago, and there wasn't a whole lot going on. But anyways, we'll talk about that in a second. So when you're close to the age of 40, that number and that formula kind of works. So back around maybe a decade ago, there was this scientist, this physiologist actually. He actually gathered data for about 18,000 individuals, which is a lot. That's a huge sample size, 18,000. And in that data, he discovered that this 220 minus your age doesn't really work, and we kind of talked about why. So he proposed a new way of calculating that. I wanted to have another screen with it on, but if you have pen and paper ready, get ready, or I'll type it in the comments. How about that? So he said, you take 208 minus 0.7 times your age, and that will equal your max heart rate. I don't know if that showed up in Facebook, but it showed it in YouTube, but we'll see. So 208 minus whatever the value of 0.7 times your age. So in my case, I am 30 years old. Woo, I'm 30. And you times that by 0.7, and then you take that value and take 208 minus that value. So I had all this math done earlier. Where'd it go? So for me, that equals about 187, which isn't too far off from 220 minus my age, but it's pretty close. Now in Sarah's case, where if she takes 220 minus her age, she gets 152. But if she takes the 208 times 0.7 times 68, she gets 160.4, which is a little bit more realistic. So I hope that makes sense a little bit. But no matter what the formula is, never base your heart rate off your maximum heart rate off of a formula. Everyone's different. So in Sarah's case, she's a super fit lady. If you were to take her heart rate and compare it to, say, another 68-year-old who is morbidly obese, who doesn't take care of himself, doesn't do any fitness, doesn't run at all, doesn't eat healthy, whatever, their heart rate would be very, very different, because our heart has to function at a certain level, and if we don't take care of our bodies, then the heart is not going to function efficiently. So does that kind of make sense? I know that's a lot of numbers. I don't know how many math gurus there are out there. Sarah says, thank goodness it didn't. And Sarah says, yeah, for sure. Sarah, I'm glad your heart also didn't explode. But so that is heart rate. And I know there's some people in this group, and if you're watching this video and you focus your training mainly on heart rate training, please comment on this post, because personally, I haven't done a whole lot with specific heart rate zones, as far as like, okay, I'm only going to run at this zone. I run mainly on feel, but I kind of monitor my heart rate as what I'm feeling. I don't know, that doesn't really make sense, but anyways, Sarah says makes sense. Okay, thanks. All right. Do you guys have any other questions for me? I have a couple other things I can talk about, but I want to make sure I give you guys time. So Leo's here. Hey, Leo, welcome. I've missed you. But yeah, so that is heart rate. Any questions? If you have questions, throw it in the comments. Heart rate's kind of a funny thing, because it's all numbers, and it's all subjective based on the runner. So here's another case study. So one of my running buddies, who's the same age as me, same fitness, same build, same size, his heart rate runs usually about 20 beats slower than mine on all of our runs. Now, I know that could be based on watch, it could be based on our fatigue levels, all those other things, but it's kind of just interesting how it varies so much. Let's see. Zach says, is perceived effort old and inaccurate? I would say it has its place. I wouldn't say it's kind of the golden rule, but I would say it kind of has its place. So, for example, in running, so if you don't know Zach does a lot of cycling, endurance cycling. For me, perceived effort is based more on just how I feel that day. So, for example, in Florida, it is way hot here, and it gets very humid in the summer. So if I were to run based on pace, it may be something completely different as opposed to running in the winter, where it's not as humid, it's a little bit easier on the body. So my perceived effort may be completely different in the winter here as opposed to the summer, but I could be going the same exact pace. It all just kind of depends on a lot of other factors. But to answer Zach's question, I would say I wouldn't call it inaccurate, but I would say it's kind of apples and oranges with heart rate, in my opinion. Does that make sense? Let's see. Scott says I just posted one on the page. Cool. Scott, I can't even speak. Post it in the comments here, because I can't click off Facebook right now. Sarah says, what about if your heart rate goes back quickly? Does that mean you're in better shape? Yes, it does actually. So that actually goes into one of the other things I wanted to talk about, which is recovery heart rate. So James kind of commented earlier about this in the group, but the way to figure out your recovery heart rate or your recovery heart rate level is to when you exercise. So you go for a run, as soon as you stop, whatever your recovery heart rate will be, whatever it is after a minute of stopping. So it's the number of beats it drops after 1 minute exercise. So if I'm running and my heart rate goes up to 180 for whatever reason, and I stop, and a minute to 2 minutes later it says I went down to 120. So my recovery heart rate would be about 60 beats per minute, which is kind of different when you think of values. You think of, okay, well, it's 160 beats per minute, but the recovery heart rate is not really that value. I don't know. I did a lot of research on this earlier, but all right. Okay, so to finish that question from Sarah. So when your heart rate drops lower, or the bigger your recovery heart rate, the better shape you're in aerobically. So here's another case example, a case study. So last week I started training again. I took some time off in December, started training again. And those first couple runs, my heart rate was a little bit higher than what it is right now. And my recovery heart rate levels were a little different than what they are now. So as the better shape I get into, the better that recovery heart rate will be. So Sarah, you're right on the money with that one. Let's see. Ali says, how do you calculate lactate threshold? Oh my goodness. Okay. We'll do that next Thursday because that takes a lot of explanation, and it'd be cooler if I could draw it out for you. So put a pin on that one. We're going to talk about that next week, lactic threshold. Zach says, I'm asking as someone who only uses that. I don't have a heart rate monitor or power meter, so I use it because I have nothing else, but everyone tries to push new methods. Yeah, so in Zach's case, I'd say that's totally fine because, yeah, if you're feeling good one day, then go a certain pace. If you're not feeling good, your heart rate's going to be a little different. I mean, if you need to go easy on one day, then go off a perceived easy level. If you need to go hard, go off of a hard perceived easy level. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense too when I think about how I trained through high school. So in high school, we didn't really have GPS watches. We just ran off of what we thought was a distance and then what we thought was our time on that distance. And, we didn't really think about, our heart rate is spiking, so we must go easier. It was all based on a given split we needed to and then what our perceived effort was. Oh man, Scott wrote me a book. Hold on. Scott says, all right, you guys ready? He says, can your body changing fuel sources changing fuel sources change heart rate? Yes, that is correct. He says, I was a low, mostly zero carber for the last 5 years. It worked well for me. I've added carbs to my diet lately. I have much better speed running when carbed up. However, I don't feel as well and I'm tired all the time. I gained 15, 20 back since started carbing again, mainly muscle, but I wanted to get down a few pounds and get fat adapted again. So I went to zero carb last Sunday till today. And here's where I'm conflicted. He says, last 2 runs where I was in full kerosene, my heart rate is through the roof on fairly easy runs, averaging 170. When it should be 150. Let's see. Has anyone heard of heart rate changes as one adapts to a new fuel source? Okay, did anyone want to answer that? At the very end, he says, has anyone heard of heart rate changes as one adapts to a new fuel source? I have an answer for it, but I want to see if anyone else who may be a little bit more into nutrition than I am, who has a little bit more experience than I do with that, answer that question. So Scott, I'm going to come back around to that one. If I don't talk about it tonight, I'll talk about it in a post. So Sally's here, Steve's here. Welcome, guys. Steve says a recovery heart rate of 60 beats per minute would be beyond elite. 87% of max heart rate. And Ethan's here, Philip's here, cool. And Scott says ketosis. Cool. Good. I'm glad so many of you are on. Welcome. Any other questions? Brenna's here now. Hey, Brenna. There's 2 other things about heart rate that I wanted to just kind of touch base on. And it's mainly kind of just terminology, I guess, but you may hear it you may see it some places. So one of those is called cardiac drift. So cardiac drift is this phenomenon where you're running at a given pace, and as time progresses, your heart rate goes up even though your pace does not. So for example, I'm out running 730 miles, and I 730 each single mile. And then after about half hour, I notice my heart rate changes and starts to increase. That's called cardiac drift. So you run at a given intensity, but after time, your heart rate will increase, but your pace stays the same. So that's called cardiac drift. So I challenge you guys. So look at some of your data and from some of your runs and see if you can pinpoint that cardiac drift within your own runs. Joey's here. Hey, Joey. See you Saturday. And then the other one, actually, we already talked about that. We already talked about rest. Oh, no, we didn't. We haven't talked about resting heart rate. So resting heart rate. This is always fun in running groups because everyone likes to compete to see who has the lowest resting heart rate. So if you're watching this right now, post your resting heart rate in the comments below. And let's see who has the lowest resting heart rate. It's always interesting to see what people have. I know the lowest I've ever seen my heart rate was like 51 beats per minute, which I was pretty proud of. But let's see. Ali says fatigue. Yeah, so fatigue also affects your heart rate too. So if you're very tired or you're not eating very well, or you're overtraining, your heart rate will increase just because your body's having to work harder to keep you moving. So that's why we taper, especially in longer races. We taper because one, it helps rebuild our muscles and gets us feeling better body wise, but it also helps our body just kind of recover from everything and helps our heart rate kind of settle in. Scott says 40. Steve Matthew 34. What? 34? Coley's here. Hey, Coley. Steve says 39 when fatigued. All right. So I think Steve's probably the lowest I've ever seen before. Ali says 62 on 5 weeks after major surgery. Yeah. So surgery also can affect that too, since you're in recovery mode. Wow. 34. That's crazy. You're a machine. Somewhere I read that Ryan Hall had the record for the lowest resting heart rate, and I don't remember what it was. It was some ridiculous number, and I was like, I don't believe that. Joy says 63. Nice. That's cool, guys. Well, goodness. Well, that is all I got as far as heart rate goes. Is there any other questions you guys have? Steve's as fast as Moss. Yeah, probably. But hang on for 1 second to see if there's any other questions. Nice. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you guys for hopping on. I hope this has been helpful. My goal in doing this weekly is to start kind of getting people to come out of their shell a little bit, because all of us none of us are Olympians by any means. We're not even close. And none of us have it all figured out. We have bits and pieces, and some of us have more bits and pieces than others. But the reason we're doing this is to kind of help each other out, because we can all share our knowledge as one collective body and be there for each other, because we're a running family. Coley says, after 2 years of running, I'm stuck on how do I speed up? Coley, I'll send you a message and we'll talk about it. But good, I appreciate that. All right, guys. Well, I hope you have a great evening. Have a great Friday tomorrow. If you're racing this weekend, good luck. I know there's a number of us in this group that are going over to a trail race this weekend, which should be fun. Hopefully it's good weather. But yeah, that's all I got. Well, I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks for hopping on, and we will see you in the group. Have a good night.